Edge of Eternities has been fully revealed, and it's a really great set for cube. I've assembled a top 10 list here today that keeps in mind both high-powered cubes and mid to low-powered cubes. But especially at lower power levels, there are a lot of really cool and unique effects in this set, often thanks to the very flexible warp mechanic. But high-powered cubes are definitely getting some very cool toys as well. Hey everyone, this is Masonzero MTG. Let's go ahead and dive into the 10 cards I want to highlight, but I know there are plenty more that people are excited about, so let me know what you're including in the comments below. Lightstall Inquisitor is an aggro card, tempo card, and blink card all in one. It's a 1-mana 2/1 with Vigilance, making it a very relevant white aggro creature, and when it enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand. If it's a spell, they have to pay 1 extra mana for it, and if it's a land, it enters tapped. This, alongside cards like either of the Thalias or Elite Spellbinder, is sure to make for a great white tempo deck. But just about any white deck in any theme would be willing to play this. It's also only the second 1-mana angel outside of Segovian Angel, so anyone running Angel Tribal is going to absolutely love this card, and I know a lot of people do run that as a theme. Umbral Caller Zealot is an easy replacement for Viscera Seer. Viscera Seer just isn't that exciting these days, despite being pretty efficient. And for 1 more mana here, we get a 3/2 for 2 that allows you to sacrifice a creature or an artifact, and then you surveil rather than scry, which is often going to be better in graveyard decks. I personally love that it's relevant in combat too, since Viscera Seer is basically just an enchantment with legs. The only downside of this card is that it's a blatant example of power creep in action, but you can't deny that it's a great Magic card. Ice-Till Explorer is a cool design that simplifies some of your design decisions by slapping multiple cards together. It's Exploration and Ramunap Excavator combined, right down to their mana costs being combined together. Plus, on Landfall you mill a card, which can help fuel playing lands from your graveyard. It does cost 4 mana, which can be a lot, but I think it's worth it to have all of these effects on one body. That means that's 1 more additional green card that you can put into your cube. Keep in mind though, if you have Strip Mine or Wasteland in your cube, this is a 2-card combo to lock your opponent out of lands, potentially, by letting you replay it every turn and then still play your own regular land on top of that. Good card, just be aware of the possibilities. Cosmogrand Zenith is the latest in a growing line of Second Spell Matters cards, but this one is not necessarily a Windmill Slam in every cube. It sits somewhere between Monastery Mentor and Cory Steel Cutter, either making 2 1/1 tokens or putting a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control whenever you cast your second spell each turn. Realistically, you're probably not getting more than 2 tokens each turn from Monastery Mentor most of the time, and it's debatable how good multiple prowess triggers versus 1 permanent counter per turn is. I don't think you're wrong for running this card over Mentor or Cutter, but it's a very tough decision. Either way, between this and Sage of the Skies from Tarkir Dragonstorm, the white second spell deck is looking really good, and this is a solid contender for it. Black Aggro is coming back to life. First we got Cecil in Final Fantasy, and now we have Sunset Saboteur in Edge of Eternities. This is a 2-mana 4/1 with Menace, and with Ward discard a card. But when it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature an opponent controls. A 4-power Menace creature backed up by removal is going to kill your opponent very quickly. To remove it, they either need to double block or discard a card most of the time, so you will likely 2-for-1 them regardless. That downside is also hardly a downside if you have the removal to back it up, or if your opponent just simply doesn't have a creature in play. Black Aggro is not a super defined archetype at this point, but I think this card has a lot of potential if that's a strategy you're into, and I think there's enough pieces in this archetype now that it's kind of viable to run. Tezzeret Cruel Captain is straight up wild, and it's one of those cards that gets stronger the more vintage your cube is. The 0 is crazy with powerful mana rocks like Grim Monolith and Mana Vault, the -3 tutors for relevant mana rocks like the Mox or powerful pieces like Skull Clamp. The -7, if you get there, is a solid path to a win, giving you a 3/3 every turn as long as you have artifacts. And it shouldn't be hard to get to this emblem, and maybe you could even do it twice in a game, because he gets a loyalty counter whenever you have an artifact enter. So every clue or treasure token you make is another loyalty counter. Now of course, Tezzeret's strength is also its biggest downside. He's a colorless card that's just kind of good in any cube that runs a lot of artifacts, so every deck could conceivably want this card, so just be aware of that when you're designing your cube. It's not going to be an interesting pick. I'm a big fan of the modes on Valorous stance, and I think Reroute Systems is a slightly better version, honestly. For just a single mana, you can give an artifact or creature indestructible, or you can deal 2 damage to a tapped creature. Valorous stance costs 2 mana and can only protect a creature and not an artifact, and it destroys a creature with toughness 4 or greater. So the protection on Reroute Systems is much more versatile, while the removal is less potent but probably more versatile and interesting in gameplay. You can use it as a combat trick to finish off a creature that was chump blocked, or you can just take out a smaller aggro card. I don't think this will ever be a bad pick, and it will always be very playable. And especially at higher power level cubes, combat tricks are few and far between, but I think this one actually makes the cut due to its protection. Let's talk red aggro. Caveron Harrier is a 1-mana 2/1, which follows in the footsteps of other uncommons like Reinforced Ronin, that ask you to keep putting mana into it to get an effect. Whenever this card attacks, you can pay 2 mana and make a 2/2 token that's tapped and attacking, and then you sack it at the end of combat. It's a good aggro card that's also relevant in sacrifice decks, provides a bit of a mana sink later in the game, and it's an artifact which can be relevant for artifact decks as well as Delirium or other graveyard themes if you have that in your cube. You could think of this as Red's Usher of the Fallen or Descendant of the Storms, which have been really solid cards. Sometimes a simple little bauble can get cubers incredibly excited, and that is definitely the case with Cryogen Relic. Let's put it side by side with Ichor Wellspring. They both cost 2 mana. The Relic has a blue pip in its cost, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's a downside. The blue can signal to drafters that artifact synergies can be found in blue specifically, and guide them down that route. Then it draws a card when it enters or leaves the battlefield. Now that, on its own, is a slight upgrade to Ichor Wellspring, which needs to specifically go to the graveyard. The Relic also has a built-in way to leave the battlefield, with a 2-mana ability that puts a stun counter on a tapped creature. Doing that and drawing a card is a pretty nice tempo play. Overall, this card is a great glue piece, as it's playable in artifacts, blink, and general control decks. Obviously, the power level isn't super high, but it's a pretty flexible card that lets you do a lot of different things and make different choices with it, and it's a great card for a peasant or mid-power cube, I think. Tanic Memorial Ensign could be a cool new piece for a peasant or lower power cube that wants to support Landfall as a theme. As a 3-mana 2/4 in green and red, it's a pretty solid body. The Landfall ability deals 1 damage to an opponent, which puts this alongside cards like Tunneling Geopede, which I think is a decent Landfall damage uncommon if you're running this sort of theme. But if that ability triggers a second time in a turn, you also get to draw a card. Drawing cards is always great. With the landscapes and other peasant fetches, this should be easy to accomplish on your own turn most of the time, and with cards like Harrow, you can get this to trigger even on an opponent's turn. Overall, this is just a nice signpost for green-red Landfall, especially when compared to other choices like Strider or Grove Rumbler. And remember, sometimes in these lower power level cubes, a good signpost to put your drafters in the right direction is sometimes better than a powerful card. But I think Tanook rides the line between those two ideas really well. Wow, look at all those interesting and strong cards. Like I said, there are lots more that I'm excited about, and I know you are too. So let me know in the comments what cards you want to test out, and be sure to subscribe to Masonzero MTG if you want to see more videos about the best cards for Cube from upcoming sets, plus even more commentary about Cube construction. See you in the next video.